Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the fifth and final presentation in our series, Death and Taxes. Today, we're going to talk about my advance directives are done. Hallelujah. Now what? All right. So I have a question for each of you to consider. And this time, I'm actually going to answer the question last. So the question I want you to think about is, from your perspective, what is the very best place for you to store your advance directives? And let's see, I would love it if Cheryl would go first.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sorry. With those who need access to it, and also a lockbox in my home.
Okay. So with people that need it and a lockbox. Thanks. Cheryl, who would you like to go next?
Kimberly.
I also think I was going to say lockbox, and then I was going to say given to like my healthcare providers.
Yeah. So you cut out at the very beginning of that. I heard the healthcare provider piece, but what did you say before that?
I said that I also would say a lockbox.
Lockbox, okay. And who would you like to go next, Kimberly?
I'm going to go with Jen.
Can you say that again? I think we missed it.
Is my mic messing up? Jen, I'm sorry.
Okay. So I would also agree. So the people who need it, like my power of attorney family, I would, keep like the originals maybe in a lockbox safe, something like that. But also I'd say on the fridge with my providers, I want them known and have them in an accessible place with the original safekeeping.
So you're going to cover all the bases, Jen. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, we're going to have it plastered around and keep the original safe, but make sure that whoever needs a copy has them and that it's on the fridge and that people know where it's at. It's not just hidden away.
Who do you select for the next answer?
Delia.
Thank you. Well, I have them with my daughter, and now that I think about it, I'm like, oh, I should probably have them a few places. And I've been relatively healthy, so I think that if I started experiencing some type of medical issue, I would immediately have a copy sent over to my medical provider. I trust her with the documents because her and her husband are like my future, they'll be my future, holders of all of my information. So it would be them and my medical provider at some point.
Great, Daya, thank you. All right, and Lisa.
Currently, I only have one copy and it's sitting on my kitchen island. Isn't that a perfect place for it? That's just because I just redid it and just signed it and my neighbor just witnessed it. So it's sitting there. So I remember to do something more with it. So what I need to do is make a couple of copies. I want to have an electronic copy. So I'd like take a picture of it and PDF it so I can email it to my younger brother and my mother. And I want to give a hard copy to my mother too, because she likes hard copies of things and has folders she keeps those in. And then I need to remember to give it to my primary care physician because they still have my old one and it's not going to help anything to have it updated if they still have my old one.
Great, thank you. What's really impressive about all of the answers that you're providing is that each of you reflects understanding that it's important to distribute copies of your advance directives really widely. In all honesty, I anticipated some people saying, you know what, I am going to keep my advance directives locked away for no one else to be able to see. And to that end, my response is, that kind of reflects the uniquenesses that each of us bring to end of life care planning and the decisions that we make. Some of our unique perspectives have to do with personality, some are cultural, some are spiritual, some have to do with the relationships that we have with others. And today, that's one of the things that we're going to talk about. When I think about ensuring that my wishes are honored, I can't help but think it might be a good idea to pin my advance directives to my shirt. But alas, that's probably not particularly feasible. All right, so Delia had commented that the PDF idea is a valuable one. So I agree, that's a way to certainly get copies to people quickly and efficiently. All right, so once again, we are grateful to the Arizona End of Life Care Partnership, which is funded by the David and Laura Lovell Foundation, as well as the Community Foundation for Southern Arizona. We have tremendous partners in our community doing work just like PCOA is doing, and they include the Interfaith Community Services, as well as the Arizona Hospital and Healthcare Association, who were instrumental in not only generating this presentation or some of the template for it, but also some of the templates for advanced directives. Now, you'll recall that in our first 4 presentations, we covered a massive amount of ground. We talked first of all about end-of-life care planning as a whole and what it means to think about how we live, how we choose to die, and how we wish to be remembered, including looking at things like developing a legacy and also expressing our wishes for memorial. We also talked about the 4 different types of advanced directives. Pop quiz, who can remember what they are?
Healthcare power of attorney, mental health care power of attorney, living will, and DNR.
Give that woman a star. Absolutely, that's right. And we also described, this one's harder, this one's an extra credit pop quiz. We also talked about the 3 templates that are widely used in Arizona for completing advanced directives. Who can name those?
5 wishes.
Yes. 2 more.
Because I don't
The
remember.
Attorney General's packet.
Yes, the Attorney General's packet. 1 more. Hint, I just said them on the acknowledgement slide.
The ASHA Thoughtful Life Conversations packet.
Yes, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. Thank you. And Ray, welcome. We're so glad you joined us this afternoon. So,
Hi.
and of course, the topic we discussed last week was how to go about choosing your person, the person who can advocate for your end of life wishes. Today, we're going to talk about taking all of those components and bringing them to fruition in a complete end of life care plan. And this includes the following steps: executing your documents, sharing them, storing them, and reviewing them. Now, these 4 things are very, very straightforward. So we'll also talk about some additional next steps that you can consider with regard to your end of life care plan. So to execute your advanced directives simply means that you're going to complete them in such a way that they have legal authority. And that means that you sign and date those documents in the presence of a witness or a notary public. Now, in Arizona, only 1 witness is required and no notary public is required. So there's a lot of flexibility. Just like Lisa said earlier, she had a neighbor witness her advanced directives. That's legal in the state of Arizona. Other states have higher requirements, but in Arizona, just 1 witness. But Arizona does have some rules around who can serve as that witness. So a valid witness to execute your advanced directives is someone who is age 18 or older, and they cannot be related to you by blood, marriage, or adoption. So no relative, okay? But your witness can also not be a healthcare provider or someone who gives you care as a caregiver. and they cannot be named as your medical or mental health care power of attorney. And the role of a witness really is just authorizing that it is you on this day signing your documents, that this is what you wish. And so it's not someone with whom you need an ongoing or super close relationship. So many people will ask a friend, like Lisa did, a neighbor, a member of a faith community, or even administrative staff at a physician's office. Some people feel more comfortable actually using a notary public instead of a witness, and that is certainly your option as well. Many financial institutions do offer notary services for their members or their clients. You can also access a notary at many of the mailbox stores, though do understand that often notaries will charge a nominal fee for their services. It's super important to remember that you're not going to sign or date the document until you are in the presence of that witness or your notary. So that's what it means to execute your advance directives. Then you're going to share your advance directives. And based on our opening activity, each of you is well versed in what it means to share your advance directives. It's important not just to provide copies, though that is key, but to talk about your wishes for living, dying, and for being remembered, and to continue to talk about them. How often is it that we complete a form, we write something up, we put it on a proverbial top shelf and don't think about it again? One of the things that is important in ensuring that your wishes are honored is that this is part of an ongoing conversation with the people that matter in your life. And one of the things that's also important to think through is the why for the decisions that you make. It's one thing to go to the important people and to tell them what you've decided. That might actually have the potential of creating some conflict or suspicion or disagreement. But the why often helps people to much better accept the what. So be open about the decisions that you've made. It's important to discuss your decisions and your wishes with your healthcare providers. In fact, this pandemic has taught us that having our people face to face with our providers or next to us in our moment of need isn't always possible. So if your healthcare providers and your nurses know what your wishes are, they can become an advocate for you as well. And of course, just like you said, make lots and lots of copies of your advance directives and distribute them widely. Remember, advance directives don't go into effect, if you will. They can't be utilized unless you are in an incapacitated state. And so no one can really misuse those while you are still of sound mind and of sound body. Now, some folks said today that they keep copies on their refrigerators. That's an important thing to do. You might also consider keeping copies of your advance directives above the visor or in the glove box of your car. And in some cases, others will actually take copies of their advance directives to the first responder station that is most likely to respond to a 911 call. If you can become familiar with the staff there and they become familiar with you, that might also assist in ensuring that your wishes are honored. So then we're going to store advance directives. And if you have distributed copies of your advance directives widely, then keeping the originals in a lockbox is an okay thing. If you only have 1 or 2 copies distributed, the lockbox may not be your best option unless, of course, your powers of attorney have a key to that lockbox. You've heard it said that some people will actually put the only copy, the master copy of their end-of-life care plan in a safe deposit box. And we all know that healthcare providers are superheroes, but I haven't heard of any of them with X-ray vision. So it's important to make sure that those originals are accessible. And the primary purpose of keeping them is so that you can make more photocopies if you need them. Remember, photocopies, even PDF copies, are as valid and legally responsible as is the original. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about review. Reviewing your advance directives is really important, and it's kind of a difficult thing. We all struggle, or most of us struggle, to complete our advance directives in the first place. But if we think about having them done and then needing to revisit them, there's almost a sense of, ooh, I'd rather not do that. But reviewing our advance directives is incredibly important because things change over the course of time. Historically, we had what were called the 5 Ds of review. And in the last year, we've actually added a 6th. The first one is with every decade. Now, you can define what a decade is and what's going to be easier for you to remember when to review your advance directives. That decade might be 2000 and where are we going from here? 2030. That might be too long a period of time. So it might be on the next decade of your birthday, or a decade of when you completed your advance directives to begin with. Another time is to realize that life provides us with opportunities to respond to. And one of those is in the death of a loved one, a family member, or a friend. That can serve as a good reminder that it's time to take a look at our end of life care plan to make sure that it reflects what we still wish and what our values are at this time. D number 3 is if you experience a divorce. Most of the time, you don't want your ex to be the one who's responsible for making decisions for your health care or for your living and dying wishes. Number 4 is diagnosis. Sometimes your health might change and you might receive a new diagnosis that kind of changes the game for you. That's a good time to update what your wishes and your values might be. The 5th one is a decline in your condition. As we age, each of us will encounter new limitations, more challenges, and some decline in the way that we are functioning. That could be cognitive, physical, emotional, any of those things. And these declines are good indicators that it's time to take a look at our end of life care plan as well. And this is something that you can include your important people in. They, as observers, may have a better sense of your decline than you do, living it day in and day out. So I encourage you to actually talk with your people and give them permission to share their observations with you openly and honestly so that you have the most correct and up-to-date advance directives. And of course, disaster. Whether that disaster is a natural disaster that happens somewhere in the world or an epidemic or pandemic like we've all been living through, these change our perspectives on what we want and what we value for the end of our life as well. So these are good times for us to review our advance directives also. It's always important to discuss your end of life care plan with your healthcare providers. This is an ongoing conversation that includes where you're at with things right now. And again, asking your healthcare providers to serve as advocates for you. But it also is important to remain in communication with them as your condition changes through the years. You may want to think through how your values might change if you were to experience a serious accident or some kind of significant health issue or crisis. Now, this next slide, this is a lot of words, and I don't anticipate that you're going to be able to process all of this, let alone write all of it down. But one of the things that you can assertively do is you think through your end of life care plan in the days that come ahead is realizing that there are resources available to help you if you do receive a new significant diagnosis. It's so easy when we get a diagnosis that is significant to think that the world has kind of come to a standstill. It has sort of stopped. But in fact, it's actually a key time for us to keep the momentum going and to become proactive and assertive to ensure that what you value and what you wish for are respected and understood. So know that these kinds of questions are available to you through the end of life team here at Pima Council on Aging, along with other resources as well. We have a frequently asked questions document, a glossary of end of life terms, because this whole world can be somewhat large and overwhelming and somewhat frightening. All you have to do is contact us and we'll help you to work that through. In the event that you do receive a significant diagnosis, there's one other alternative for you as well. And that document is known as a POLST. POLST stands for a physician's orders for life-sustaining treatment. These actually are standing orders that become part of your medical record. They're generated by your physician, attached to your medical record, and they must be followed in a healthcare facility or a primary care environment. The benefit of it is that there isn't question, right? It's right there. Everyone's on the same page. They know, the healthcare providers know what they need to do for you. The challenge is if there are any inconsistencies between your POLST and your living will. So which of those two documents do you think would carry the greater legal authority, the POLST or the living will?
POLST.
Cheryl, you think it's the POLST? Okay, let's do it this way. How many of you think it's POLST? Okay, and how many of you think it's the living will? Okay, so Ray is correct. It is the living will. And so your living will is the preeminent document that carries legal authority. So if you and your physician do decide to create a POLST for you, please ensure that it is consistent with your living will, or if the wishes that are described in your POLST are what you want, that you update your living will to be consistent with the POLST. That is really important. Now, sometimes, in fact, I met with a client earlier this week, and this client was very frustrated by the responsibility of having to make and disseminate and stay on top of all of the copies of her advance directives. From her perspective, it should be much simpler than that. And quite honestly, I agree. But at this point in time, it just isn't. Though I want to let you know that there is a move in the state of Arizona to attach advance directives to your electronic health record. This is something that is being spearheaded across the state. It would be accessible in all electronic health records here in Arizona, not in other states, at least at this point, but in Arizona. And what it would do is make sure that emergency personnel and healthcare providers have real-time access to all 4 of your advance directives. This has the potential of really minimizing or eliminating any of those situations where your wishes aren't being honored. And I think especially of like a do not resuscitate form. It does not exist yet, though it is being piloted in the very near future. And it's being hosted by a healthcare information organization called Health Current. If this is something that you're interested in, simply stay in touch with the end of life team here at PCOA. We can let you know when it's up and running and what you need to do to have your advance directives actually attached to your electronic health record. All right. Once you have completed your own advance directives, you have a badge of respect and knowledge and expertise. And you may want to begin talking to the important people in your life about completing theirs as well. I hope that through these presentations, you've learned that planning for dying and for death is actually a gift that you give to yourself, as well as a gift that you give to the people that matter to you. And this process is one of the ways that you express your purpose, you hold on to your autonomy, your independence, and your dignity. And it also creates clarity, resolve, and assurance for your loved ones, even in the midst of tremendous emotional stress and even grief. But in order to be effective, This process involves open, honest conversation that is real and built on trust and transparency and sharing. And that is something that you can model for other people that matter to you as well. And so it's important that we think about the gift that we've created for ourselves and also think about being willing to share that gift with others. Now, not all other people are going to consider it a gift, at least initially. And they might present back with all kinds of concerns and barriers and oppositions to talking with you. But those same challenges and barriers are also opportunities and benefits. And what we can do is kind of reframe their concerns to be something that's focused on what's strong and capable and possible. So folks might talk about being too young or too healthy, but as you all know, we are not guaranteed our next breath. Nothing is as expected. And certainly this past year has showed us that this is true. So having these conversations is one of those powerful ways to prepare for the unexpected. Some people feel like they have no one to talk to, and it's true that especially among older adults with social connections that get smaller and smaller over time, sometimes this is a very real concern. But even talking to someone who's part of the PCOA end of life team is a way that you can find support and voice, and that is a validating and important step to take as well. We know that new things are uncomfortable, and the only way to gain comfort is by taking the risk to have those conversations. And in so doing, we find that we actually have competence and confidence as well. We know that life is hard, and there are many things to worry about, but imagine the daily concerns we have now compared to a health crisis and people trying to make really urgent decisions under super difficult circumstances. And there are those, especially among some cultures, that think if I talk about death, I actually will die. But talking about death does not hasten the reality of dying. Instead, it increases the likelihood that what you want and what you wish for are being honored. And then still others think, I'm just going to trust my healthcare team to make decisions for me. And for me, at least, I stop and I hear the real weight of those words. And I think to myself, I really don't want to abandon my control or my ability to make decisions, even to those folks that are so-called experts. So hold on to and encourage the people you know to hold on to your voice, your decisions, your dignity. And remember, it's always too early to plan for death until it's too late. I'd like for you to watch this video. This too comes from the Conversation Project, and it's about having these really hard conversations with folks. All right, I thought maybe it was going to start all on its own. This really shows some helpful ways to start having the conversations with loved ones. Not perfectly, even though it says practice makes perfect, but genuinely.
Mom.
Mom.
Dad.
Sweetie, can we talk?
Everyone, dies.
So, how do you want to go?
Do you have a plan for your end of life care? Because I don't.
Don't take this the wrong way, but you're not getting any younger.
So I was binge watching Game of Thrones, which reminded me that everybody dies.
Oh, you've heard of a birth plan, right? It's like that, only the opposite.
I need your help with something. Can we talk?
My biggest fear is losing you, and that I won't know how you want me to care for you toward the end.
Remember what happened to Aunt Maria? I don't want that to happen to you.
You've taken care of me your whole life. Now it's my turn to take care of you.
playful as that video is, I love the real, true compassion, concern, love, and commitment that come through. And those are the things that really make a difference, even if you struggle to find the words in end-of-life conversations. There are a couple of things to consider. Always focus on the future. If we remind people that death is imminent, and it may mean today, they're not likely to think about or have these conversations. But let's look at it at some time in the future. Identify, just as you have, what's important to you and what decisions you'd like to make. Engage important people, realizing that there are people that your loved ones may want to be part of their end. And there are also people they may not want to be part of their end. It's also, we've talked a lot about thinking through dying and the choices we want made for us or that we make for ourselves around treatments, but quality of life is important too. And where is that balance for people? And of course, the ultimate goal is, how do we want to help people have their wishes honored? Now, it's important to know that this isn't a one-time conversation, just like completing your advanced directives isn't a one and done opportunity. Instead, think about having ongoing conversations with people that matter. And when they struggle, leave the space for them to continue to struggle through that. Give them time and opportunity to think things through, to process and to come to conclusions that are their own. Be patient. And always, always, always listen. Listen with an ear to being a safe responder, someone who can ask the next questions, but do so in a way that comes with no judgments. And allow people always to change their mind. Just like you can change your mind for your advanced directives, so too can the people that are important to you. And perhaps, just perhaps, what you'll find is that having some of these end-of-life conversations with the people that matter to you will become part of your legacy, the legacy that you leave, so that the end of the life of the people that you love receives as much beauty, care, and respect as the beginning of their life did. We are here to help. If you want to explore the topic more, you can simply go to endoflife.pcoa.org and find additional helps and resources. Or if you'd like to talk to someone here at PCOA, we would love to be there for you. Simply call our helpline at 790-7262, and we are here to be with you. This is a new pilot program for PCOA, and your thoughts are important to us. We always want to adjust the trainings and services that we provide to meet the needs of important people just like you. So you will be receiving by email an opportunity to complete this survey, and we hope that you'll do so. Inform our process, help us to get better at this. And if and when, not if, when you complete your end-of-life care plan, will you give us a call? We'd love to celebrate that with you. So just as we know, there are no things more certain than death and taxes, a gentleman by the name of Terry Pratchett put things into better perspective. And that is, there are death and taxes, but taxes are worse because at least death doesn't happen to you every year. Thank you, and have a great afternoon. Here we go.